Hello everyone. We're gonna tackle standard form of equation of ellipse with center at origin. Before we proceed, let's first define what is an ellipse. An ellipse is determined by a constant and two fixed points, each called a focus point. We have here the parts of an ellipse: major axis, center, minor axis, vertex, and co-vertex. First is major axis, the longest line in the ellipse, or the or the longest line you can draw through the egg. The ellipse is formed like an egg. This is the major axis, the longest line you can see inside the ellipse. Let's proceed to the center. Center of the ellipse is the midpoint of both the major axis and the minor axis. It also midpoint between the two focus. As you can see, this is a focus 1 and focus 2, and this is our center between our focus. Next is minor axis, the shortest line you can see inside the ellipse. So this is our minor axis, the shortest one. And this is another example. This is so again, the major axis is the longest, while the minor axis is the shortest. Longest, shortest. Next is vertex, the two ends of the major axis. So the major axis is the longest line in our ellipse. So this is the major line. Major axis. Then the endpoint of this is called vertex. This is vertex, and this is vertex. And this is the major axis. This is an vertex, this is a vertex. Next is the co-vertex, the two ends of the minor axis. Minor axis, the shortest line in the ellipse. So this is our minor, and the endpoint is called co-vertex. Here, co-vertex. Co-vertex. This. So now let's proceed to equation of ellipse with the center at origin.
Equation of ellipse with center at origin. Ellipse with foci on the x-axis. X squared divide a squared plus y squared divide b squared equals 1. This is what you will use as horizontal solution if your graph is horizontal solution. Let's talk about vertical. Ellipse with foci on the y-axis. X squared divide b squared plus y squared divide a squared equals to 1. This is what you will use if your graph is vertical. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, class, so another topic, we have the horizontal ellipse and the vertical ellipse. So the horizontal ellipse, the major axis lies along the x-axis, and the standard form of equation is x squared over a squared plus y squared over the b squared. And the vertical ellipse, the major axis lies along the y-axis, and the standard form of equation is x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals 1. So if the a is greater than the b, the ellipse is going horizontally. But if the B is greater than the A, then the ellipse is going vertically.
Now let's get to the examples. But first, always remember that there are two types of equation in solving for the ellipse with the center at the origin, which are the horizontal and the vertical equation. So in determining what type of equation to use, you have first to observe the given. So for example, if a squared is bigger or greater than b squared, so the formula you're going to use is the horizontal formula. And if b squared is greater than a squared, the formula you're going to use is the vertical one. So now let's go to the steps in solving for the ellipse. So first steps is always finding first the vertex. So the formula you're going to use is you have to equate a squared into the given value of the a squared. So how do you do that? So you're gonna simply square it off. So the square root of a squared is equals to the given value of a squared. So you're gonna cancel out the square root and the exponential 2. So a is equals to, the result is now your vertex. So the same thing goes in solving for the co-vertex. That is our second step. So the equation for that is equating b squared is equals to the given value of b squared. Same thing with what you did to the vertex, you're gonna do it to the co-vertex. So simply square root of b squared is equals to the value given for b squared. So now cancel out the square and cancel out the exponential 2. B is equals to the value of your co-vertex. Now, in finding your focus or your foci, you have to use the equation C is equals to the square root of a squared minus b squared. You simply have to substitute the value of your a squared and b squared to get the focus or the foci. Now, for the lactus rectum, we have the equation b squared is over a. So once again, the very first step when going to solve for the ellipse with the center at the origin is first you have to determine what formula you're going to use, whether horizontal or the vertical. Next is solving for the vertex, followed by the co-vertex, and the third for the focus or the foci, and lastly, your lactus rectum. So now let's get to the example. So first example, x squared over 36 plus y squared over 16 is equals to 1. Notice that 36 is greater than 16. So with that, the equation we're going to use is the horizontal equation. So first step is getting the vertex. So we have a squared is equals to our value of our a squared is 36. So we're going to replace the value 36. Now we're going to square it. So square root of a squared is equals to the square root of 36. So now, cancel out the square root, cancel out the exponential 2. A is now equals to 6. That is our vertex. Now, to solve for our co-vertex, we have b squared is equals to, the value of b squared is 16, so copy that. And then square it off. Square root of 16. So now our co-vertex is equals to 4. So now let's solve for the focus or the foci. We have the equation of C is equals to the square root of a squared minus b squared. So let's follow that. Substitute the value of a squared, copy the square root. Value of our a squared is 36. 36 minus b squared, which is 16, is equals to, so 36, so copy the square root still, so 36 minus 16 is equals to 20. So now, C, so square root of 20 is equals to 2 square root of 5, or in decimal, that is 4.5. Now that is the value of our focus or the foci. So now we're gonna get the LR or the lactus rectum. So the equation for the LR is equals to B squared over A. So now replace the value of B squared, which is 16 over, now don't be confused, A. So your vertex, so that will be 6. So now let's divide it. 16 divided 6 is equals to 2.7. Now that is our LR or the lactus rectum. So now that we have all the solving done, we can now start graphing in our graphing paper. So first, we have to graph the vertex, which was 6. So since we use the equation horizontal equation, so first our vertex should be in the x-intercept. So we're gonna count 6 to this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 to the other side. Now, next that we're going to plot is our co-vertex, which since we use the horizontal for our vertex, now our co-vertex will be in the x-intercept. So that will be 4. 4 up and 4 down. Now to plot our focus or the foci, which was 4.5, that will be aligned in the x-intercept the same with our vertex. So 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4. That will be between 4 and 5. Same goes to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next, we're going to plot our LR or the lactus rectum, which we determined was 2.7. So in plotting our lactus rectum, always remember that it has to be aligned with our focus. So 2.7. So here. So aligned with our focus. 2, 1, 2, and almost near to the 3 but not quite. Right about there. And same goes to the rest of them. So in total, in the ellipse, we will have 4 lactus rectum. Two point seven. 1. 7. 2. 7. Now we can start connecting all the dots. And also, don't forget to plot your center, which is in the origin, since we are doing the plotting the points in solving for the ellipse center at the origin. So first we have to determine this will be our V1, which is vertex 1. The other side will be vertex 2. Then here is our W1, which W is also known as the co-vertex. And W2, focus 1, focus 2, center, which is 0, 0. And our LR1, LR2, LR3, and lastly LR4. So now that we have plotted all the points and connected all the dots, Now we have to figure out the value of our vertex 1, 2, vertex 1 and 2, co-vertex 1 and 2, and the focus 1, 2, and the LRs, as well as our center, which we already know is 0, 0. So now, V1. So we already figured out that V1 is 6. And since it's aligned in the x-intercept, that will be 6, 0. And for our V2, right here, that would be -6 and 0. Now for our co-vertex, since it is in the y-intercept, we have to put first the 0. So 0, W1, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4. W2, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. So that is 0, negative 4. Now for our focus, which is right here. So we just have 2, since it is also aligned with our vertex, so we're gonna have to put the value of the focus first and then followed by the 0. So focus, F1, 1, 2, 3, 4. We determined that was 4.5. So our focus is, we determined was 4.5, so positive 4.5 and 0. And the other side is, which is the F2, is negative 4.5 and 0. So now let's move on to the LR, or the lactus rectum. So we have 4 LR in the ellipse. We have LR1, LR2, 3, and 4. So let's determine their values. LR1, which is right here. So we determined our LR1 is 2.7. And always remember that LR is always aligned with your focus. So LR1, focus at 4.5, and in the x-intercept, so we have positive 4.5, and in the y-intercept, which is 1 to 2.7. 2.7. That's 7. Next, our LR2, which is right here. LR2, right here. So, focus of 4.5, positive 4.5, with the y-intercept of negative 2.7. Next is our LR3, which is right here. So, same goes, but this time, our focus is negative 4.5, with the positive y-intercept of 2.7. 0.7. And lastly, our LR4, which are all in the negative part of the graph. So, negative 4.5 and negative 2.7. And that's it. You basically have now the values of your graph and the graph itself. Now, let's have our second example. So, x squared over 42 plus y squared over 48 is equals to 1. Notice that b squared has a greater value than the a squared. So, we're going to use the equation for vertical. So, now let's move on. First step, finding our a squared. So, since b squared has a greater number, we're gonna use the value of b squared as our a squared. So that will be a squared is equals to 48. The same process, you square it off, square it off 48. Cancel out, a is equals to square root of 48 is 4, square root of 3, or also in decimal, which is 4. A is equals to 6.9. Now, let's solve for our co-vertex. So b squared is equals to... So, since we use the value of b squared here in finding our a squared, we will also use the value of a squared in finding our b squared. So that will be b squared is equals to now 42. Square it off. Square root of 40, square root of 42. Cancel, cancel. B is now equals to square root of 42 is 6.5. Now let's move on into finding our focus or the foci. So we will always follow the equation C is equals to the square root of a squared minus b squared. Substitute the value. Square root of a squared is 48 minus 42. So now 48 minus 42 is 6. Square root of 6. C is equals to 2.4. And now let's find the value of our lactose rectum. So LR, so that is b squared a. The value of our b squared is 42. The value of our a is 6.9. So 42 divide 6.9 is equal to 6.1. That is our lactose rectum. So now that we have already the values of our vertex, co-vertex, focus, and the lactose rectum, we can now graph in our graphing paper. So now let's plot our points or values here in the graphing paper. So first, plot our center, which is at the origin. Next is our vertex. And since it is we're using the vertical equation, our vertex will now be in the y-intercept, which we determined was 6.9, not quite 7. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right about here. And same goes to the other side. Or the downward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Right here. Now let's plot our co-vertex in the x-intercept, which is 6.5. 1, 4, 5, 6. It's between 6 and 7. And same goes to the right. 3, 4, 6.5. Next, we are going to plot our focus, which is always aligned with our vertex. So it's gonna be in the y-intercept. So our focus we determined was 2.4. So right here, 2.4, not quite 2.5. And same goes upward. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, not quite 3. Right here. Now, let's put the point for our lactose rectum, which is always remember it is always aligned with our focus. So we determine our lactose rectum is 6.1. So aligned with our first focus right here and 6.1. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right about here. Right about here. That's our LR. And same goes to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.1 right here. So now that we have plotted all our points, let's now connect the dots. Now that it is all connected, let's mark it. So this is our vertex 1, vertex 2, focus 1, focus 2, co-vertex 1, co-vertex 2, our center right here, center which is 0, 0, and our LR1, LR2, LR3, and lastly LR4. So now that we have marked our points already, let us determine the value of our vertex, co-vertex, focus, and our lactus rectum. So V1. So we already know our vertex is 6.9. Since it is in the y-intercept, it's gonna be 0 and positive 6.9. Now for our vertex 2, we have negative, so 0 first and negative 6.9. So now let's determine the value of our co-vertex, which is also denoted as W. So since our co-vertex is in the x-intercept, we're gonna have to put it first. So we determine that it is 6.5 and then 0. And our co-vertex 2, which is in the left side, which is negative, so negative 6.5 and 0. Now for our focus, which is in the y-intercept. So we're gonna have to put 0 first and then focus 1, which we determined was 2.4. So that's gonna be positive 2.4. And for our focus 2, which is downward, it is in the negative, so 0 and negative 2.4. So now let's determine our lactus rectum. So we have lactus rectum 1, and it is always aligned with our focus. So we already know that our focus is in the y-intercept, so we're gonna have to put the value of that last. So first, our LR was 6.1. So we have to put, so since it's in the right side, it's positive, so 6.1. And our y-intercept, which is positive 2.4. Next, our LR2, which is right here, it's downward. So we have, but our x-intercept is still positive, x, so 6.1, and we have the negative value of the focus, which is negative 2.4. Next, for our LR3, right here, and since it is aligned with the co-vertex in the left side, which is negative, so it's gonna be negative. So first we have negative 6.1, and so guys, I made a mistake, so it's not 6.1. The value of our co-vertex is 6.5. So I actually made a mistake right here in putting the value. So this is what you have to watch for. It is always important to be precise with numbers, especially in graphing. So we have here our LR1 is 6.5 0.5 and 2.4. Same goes with the LR2, 6.5 and negative 2.4. And then LR3 is negative 6.5 with positive 2.4. Now for our LR4 right over here. So it's downward and it's on the left side. So it's all negative signs. So first, since it is aligned, it is aligned with our co-vertex, which is in the x-intercept. We have to put the value first. So that is negative 6.5, and then the focus, which is negative 2.4. And that's it. You have the value of your points now. So to recap, the steps in getting the values for the ellipse with center at the origin. So first you have to determine the equation you're going to use. It's either horizontal or the vertical equation. Next is finding your vertex, which is a squared is equals to the value of the a squared, and then you'll have to square it off. And second step is finding the co-vertex. Same thing, you square so b squared, square it off, then you'll get the value of your co-vertex. Next step is finding, or the third step is finding your focus using the equation c is equals to square root of a squared minus b squared. So you just have to substitute those values. And then the fourth step is finding your lactus rectum, which you will gonna use the equation b squared over a, and you just substitute its value. And next, in your graphing paper, you first have to plot your center, which is at the origin, so the very center of your graph. And next, you have to graph your vertex, followed by your co-vertex, your focus, your lactus rectum, and then connect all the dots. And next, you have to determine the values or where those points align with. And that's it.